Today we have a very special guest, Ehsan Movahedian. He is a lecturer at ATU University on the Caucasus region and an expert of international relations. Could you tell us what inspired you to pursue, the study of this region in particular, and what has it led to? How has it developed in the terms of the expert community in Iran?
It's interesting question, and I want to know to what happened that I concentrated on Caucasus region. Before that, my PhD thesis was about something else. It was about United States cyber diplomacy towards Iran. It's another word. But what happened? I was studying about Caucasus, but not precisely. I'm not focused on, concentrated on that. But when the 2020 war started, I was somehow worried because I was looking the situation and I was watching what Baku is doing, what Israel's reaction, what Russians are doing, and I understand that something seriously is happening there. And during the war, I wrote an article in one of the Iranian news agency, and I warned that if this war is going to continue this way, we are going to lose our borders with Armenia. Israelis are coming, Takfiris are coming, and they are want to force us to leave the Caucasus region, and it's very dangerous for us. And I don't know to call it funny or whatever. The funny point was that many anti-Iranian websites and the sites and satellite TV channels that are affiliated with anti-Iranian governments and movements and so on, all of them suddenly concentrated on my article, and they republished it and reshared it and said that they thought that something important happened in Iran regarding Iranian policy toward Caucasus. And this article was republished a lot, and suddenly one of the deputy of foreign minister of Iran reacted and said that we are not going to lose our borders with Armenia. The things that is in article, it's so pessimistic and it's not going to happen. Suddenly I understand that this part of the world is so important, because I was supposed to write a lot of articles in different field of international relations. But I saw that suddenly an article was reshared and republished a lot through anti-Iranian websites and satellite channels. So I realized that this part of the world is so important. So I tried to work and concentrate on Caucasus, and studied a lot and wrote a lot. And I suddenly saw that many people are in contact with me, talk to me, and I saw suddenly I have a lot of reactions from Armenia. The first one was from Orbeli. One of the employee of Orbeli sent me an email and talked to me and talked about her concerns, and it was repeated again, and I had contact with different NGOs in Armenia, different NGOs and institutions in Iran, and suddenly it became so big. So I decided to concentrate on this matter, and I'm seeing that, I think I'm positive in this, effort, because in Iran it's a joke. We say that we have millions of Middle East experts. Everybody in Iran is Middle East expert. If you talk to a taxi driver in Iran, he can talk to you half an hour about Iraq, about Lebanon, about Syria. But when it comes to Caucasus, they cannot say that which countries are located in Caucasus. And this is very bad, because Caucasus has been a part of, cultural Iran. We have a lot of similarities. You see one of our similarities. Mm-hmm. Same traditions. Mm-hmm. We have same traditions regarding wedding, regarding respecting grandmothers, how much you are, committed to your church and to religion and etc. And you know that what I mean. So we have a lot of similarities, but we don't know each other, and this is a real problem. And it's not just limited to Armenia. We have many similarities, with ordinary people in Georgia, in Republic of Azerbaijan, and when we go to Central Asia, the heritage of Persian language is available in there, in Samarkand, Bukhara, etc. So this is a capacity that Iran has that can, focus on that, and it has economic, cultural, political, security outcomes and consequences for us, but we don't use it. And this war led to that we understand that how much we wasted our time and wasted our capacity that we had in this region. So I continue, and the other point was that the Panturk tried to, limit me so hard and disturb me, and how much they angered me, insulted me, they tried to stop me, threaten me, and this kind of, actions proved to me that I am in the right path. I have to confront them, I have to fight, and I'm continuing this way, and I hope that someday we can, cultivate millions, it's like an exaggeration, but thousands, hundreds of Caucasus experts in Iran, and we can, improve our relation and work together better.
You mentioned the shared past that you have with the region in general, but I would also like to focus on Azerbaijan, as we know that Azerbaijan is in its entirety a product of the Persian Empire and
Yes.
hasn't really had any distinct political identity before the beginning of the 20th century. But for some reason, after independence, they have not really pursued a policy of, leaning into this identity. Could you tell us more about how Tehran's relationship with Baku has been developing, starting from the 90s?
Closely after the independence of Azerbaijan, honestly, we had no problem with them. It was a war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. At that time, Armenia was so powerful, and I think if you succeeded the war, you could take Caesar of Baku. So Iran meddled in, and at that time it was after the finish of Iran-Iraq war. It was so somehow Shia centricism in our country, and since Baku was in danger, and at that time there were no Israelis and no Takfiris there. People really loved Iran. They were Shia, we are Shia. So it was, great connection. So Iran supported them to stop Armenia from take Caesar of Baku. And it was some peace negotiation. Iran meddled in, participated, and Iran was the major player in the region. But after that, many things changed, because Israelis tried to meddle in, and they tried to find a spot near Iranian borders, like we did against them. We cultivated Hezbollah and Hamas and different anti-Israeli groups. They are near the borders of Israel. They try to do some similar action and control some anti-Iranian movements near Iran. So the chance.
I even know that, it's not an official channel, but some people in the diplomatic corps of Armenia told me that Israelis had made similar offers when Armenia was controlling Nagorno-Karabakh, but we didn't really pursue that.
Yeah. They tried also to meddle in Armenia, but Armenia didn't do that. And the point is that you have contradiction, deep contradiction with Israelis, and it has its roots in history, in culture, and they have their narration of Holocaust. You have your narration of Armenian genocide, and they consider Armenian genocide a rival for their narration, and it have some roots in religious matters because you consider that the Jesus Christ was martyred by the Jews, so you cannot be in peace with them. So they didn't succeed in Armenia, but they tried to succeed in Azerbaijan, and it's a long story. First of all, they tried to control media, they tried to control universities, they tried to control schools and so on. And through cultural influence, they try to meddle in politics, to meddle in economy. It's a long story. We have to talk a lot. But it was somehow, and Iran didn't pay attention. We thought that they are Muslims, they are Shia. Nobody cannot, threaten Iran through a Shia country. But it was a big mistake because the people who ruled that country, they were KGB spies. They were anti-Iranian, they were anti-Islamic revolution, but we didn't pay attention because they knew that how to play their role, how to, fool us, honestly. And they fooled us. And, Israel did what it wants. And the point, and right now, the main important point about Azerbaijan is that, they don't have any kind of pillars and characteristics that distinguish them from Iran. You have your alphabet, you have your religion, you have your soul, cultural characteristics that you can build a civilization based on that. But the point is that Azeris honestly have nothing. They are Shia. If you consider everything, their alphabet is Iranian. Okay, they change it to Latin, but the reality is that for example, if you go to National Museum of Azerbaijan, you see that everything is in Persian. Everything, belong to Iran. So they saw that if they want to, continue this way, they have no option but to be a part of Iran again, to observe to Iran again. So they tried to be different. How? They tried, to falsify the history. They tried to say that we were a different civilization, we will never be part of Iran. They tried to distinguish themselves from Iran with the help of Israelis, with the help of Turkey, United Kingdom, and so on. So we have the situation here that we have a country that they are like a child that want to harm his mother. It's a hard situation we have. So we are trying to tolerate them. We know that they are against us, but we have no other choice but to tolerate them and try to cultivate and educate a new generation that understand the reality. It's so hard because we have lost the time. We have lost 30 years. It's not simple. We have a new generation that they have been under the bombardment of a false and Israeli educational system. But there is no other option. We have to work on this. We have to talk to them. We have to use internet and so on to make them understand the realities and change the situation.
Yes, this seems to be a common thread of all these younger, newer constructs that are then turning to the larger configurations from which they came. I mean, Ukraine was a similar story where a newer configuration turned against the center.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to observe. I wanted to ask you what steps have been already taken since the 2020 war that turned Iran's attention to Armenia, and what steps are next in the development of Armenia-Iran relations?
The first point is that we all the time before the 2020 war, all the time we were repeating that we are friends, we are neighbor countries, we have to work together, but in reality it was nothing. Our whole concentration was toward Middle East or Afghanistan, Pakistan, the countries in Persian Gulf. One when it comes to Caucasus, it was nothing, and we thought that is the it's a Russian sovereignty. We didn't pay attention. After the war, we understood that we succeeded to stop them in Middle East, but they are coming through Caucasus region. They are coming through window. It was too late, but thanks God, Iran understood it. So we did many things. I think in the field of economy, I have to talk about corridors. The main point that we try to empower, and we started to build the North-South corridor from Georgia to Armenia to Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. It's good for you and it's good for us. It's good for you because you are a landlocked country. You can access, free waters through Iran, and we can access to Caucasus region and Central Asia through you, because we have no other option. Turkmenistan is a good country for us. They are working with us, but honestly, it's a close country. And Azerbaijan consider us as an enemy and rival and never let us in. So the only, open country to us is Armenia, these 38-kilometer borders. So we are going to, improve our relation in the field of economy right now. The volume of, trade between two countries exceeded, I think, $700 million, and we want to increase it to $3 billion, and it's so good. So we are going to increase our interaction in the field of economy, and after economy, we want to concentrate on cultural matters. The most important, in the field of economy, I have to talk about the exchange of electricity and energy between two countries. It's a long story, and you know what I'm talking about, so I don't want to continue that. It's about in the field of economy. So we are working together, to exchange our needs and empower. We empower you and you empower us. In the field of culture, we have concentrated of education of Persian language, because when you know Persian language, you can, read our cultural heritage, different poets, know about Iranian philosophers, and when we talk about cultural Iran, you need to know Persian. The other points that we can concentrate is about the security cooperations between two countries. It's not in the good level. Iran is ready, to increase it, but it depends on Armenian government that what they want to do, what's their decision. We can, we are ready to increase our, security cooperations. We are ready to launch a military maneuver with Armenia, and it's so important because you see that Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Pakistan all the time, every day they are launching a military deal. If you do it with Iran and India and so on, it has a positive effect on the peace negotiation between you and between Azerbaijan, and you will be in better stance. So these are some examples of what is happening right now in the field of our relations and what has changed after 2021.
Recently, Iran had elections, and reformists and President Pezeshkian took over the presidency. I wanted to ask if there is any difference in policies, the previous president and administration and this new one.
Definitely nothing is going to change in this field. Definitely. Why? Because the final say in foreign relations belongs to Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. He talked about Caucasus many times. He said 4 points. I want to re-mention it that everybody in Armenia must know that what's these 4 points that design our foreign policy toward Caucasus region. First of all, he said that the Nagorno-Karabakh it belongs to Azerbaijan, and it was because that your government said it belongs to Azerbaijan. So we are not going to talk against your government. So when you think like this, we have nothing to say. So this is something that we accepted. But the second point is that he said that the Artsakh has the right to live in Nagorno-Karabakh, and they must be safe and respected. This is something that not happened, but this is the second pillar of our foreign policy in Caucasus region. The third point he mentioned was that no takfiri, no guys from Daesh and so on, this kind of extremists, they must be out of Caucasus. You know that some countries trying to send these guys to Caucasus region from Syria and other parts, that this is something we are against it. The fourth point, and I think the most important thing was that he said that we have a 1,000 years connection and border with Armenia, and we must preserve it, and we preserve it, and we never let anybody to cut our borders with Armenia. The point is that Ayatollah Khamenei usually doesn't talk about these things. He talks about general policies, but repeatedly in these 4 years, repeatedly he talked about Iranian-Armenian borders. It means that it is so important for him and for Iranian political system. And many of Iranian officials said that we never let the fake Zangezur corridor be created. If there is any road there and any transit road there, it must be under the control of Armenian government, this is the official policy of Armenian government that we support it. And when this kind of policy is designed with Iranian Supreme Leader, nobody can change it. It has nothing to do with governments in Iran. It has designed in the highest level in Iran, so it doesn't matter who is the president and his reformists or liberal or conservative and so on.
I see. You mentioned the inadmissibility of the Zangezur corridor. Iran has mentioned quite a few times that it's a red line, and the Armenian government seems to echo these statements, saying that the logic of corridors, which is like extra, roads that are not under the state control, must be negated. Could you tell us, as like a regional expert, what dangers does this possibility have for Armenia on the short term and on the long term?
This is the right policy that your government support and Iran support. And why? When we talk about corridor, it's not just a road that connects to destination. It has meaning beyond that. And what is the meanings? They don't want just a transit road that transfer their goods, persons, and so on. They want to change the identity of the Syunik region and make it a Turk province. Okay, this is the main problem. So why they insist that they want to take control of that corridor? Because they want to be there. They know that there are many people there that they have no job. They don't have any hope to future. Maybe they want to immigrate from Syunik. They think that they can come and gradually change the identity of the region and make it Turk, and so they can, launch and start and create the Turk tyranny, world that they want. This is their project, and you know that. What does it mean? It means that they want to destroy Armenia. And how they want to do it? They want to do it like what they did in Azerbaijan. It was a Shia country that was so close to Iran that they were believers, but you see what happened right now. They want to repeat this project in Syunik, and when Armenia is surrendered with enemies that they want to destroy your civilization, identity, and pillars that, design your civilization, so there will be no Armenia anymore. So this is the most important thing. First of all, they want to steal your identity, your civilization, your language, the church. And right now they are doing this. When you walk in Republic Square, you see that some evangelists, they, propaganda against Armenian church. What they want to do? They want to disintegrate the society, and they are doing that, and you see that they do a lot of propaganda in the society. So the main point is that it's not a transit road. It's a road that leads to disintegration and disintegration of Armenia. And after that, it's the turn of Iran. We know that. We have the same destiny. NATO wants to create another NATO in this region. The head of MI6 was here 2 months ago. He clearly said that. He said that we have 5 eyes. Baku must work with Central Asian countries, like what we are doing in 5 eyes countries. And it's good that Baku leads this initiative. So it's not an analysis, it's a news. They are doing this. And if we don't work together, we have no chance to stop them. First, they come to you, and when they destroy you, they come to Iran, and they surrender Iran with that goddamn Turkey NATO. And so it's a real threat for our identity, our civilization, our values. So we have to work together. And some people in Armenia think that it's about economy and money, that we don't want you to let this transit road pass through Armenia. It has nothing to do with money. Why? Because Azerbaijan, more than 30 years, used Iranian territory, Iranian roads, to access, to connect Nakhchivan to mainland of Azerbaijan. We didn't ask them for money. It was nothing. We asked them for a little money, but if you consider it in the economic pillars, it was nothing. So we don't care about money. We say that if they try, it's my personal view, maybe some people oppose it, but I tell you, if you give them a simple road, transit road, even with your control, they try to change it to a corridor, and they trying to change your identity. They try to control your economy, your educational system, your politics, your security, and suddenly you see that there is no, you don't have any control on Syunik. It's a soft war that leads to hard war. So you must pay attention. You have a very great responsibility, you guys that do media things in the country, and you have to work on the mind of youth in Armenia to make them to understand what is the real threat against Armenia. If you lose this war, the next target is Iran. So we have 100% similarities in this field, and we have to concentrate and fight together to stop this threat.
Well said. The escalations in the Middle East have really reached a very high point. Now Israel is did a ground invasion in Lebanon, and there we see this back and forth escalation with Iran between Iran and Israel. What are the implications of these escalations for Armenia? Because Karopalyan, who is a Turkish MP, former MP, when he was in Armenia, he said that in the case of war, the border with Turkey may serve as this type of like gateway for Armenia.
Mhm. You know, they want to use this war. It's not a war. It's somehow some attacks. They want to use this situation as excuse to force you to work and be dependent on Turkey. That is something that United States and NATO wants, and it's so dangerous. You know, it's the the most important implication of this, you know, conflict between two countries. So I think this is another point that you have to concentrate on, because they want you to make you be, you know, the final, decision of NATO and United States is that Armenia must, import energy and gas and so on through Baku. And in the field of economy and anything else, you must be dependent on Turkey, so you don't need Iran. So kick them out of Armenia. And after that, when you are dependent on anything to these two aggressive countries, you have no chance to preserve your independence. And these, conflicts between Iran and Israel in this region can be a pretext for them, to prove that they are right. And I think they are waiting that this escalation of conflict between Iran and Israel, they think that maybe it leads to in a situation that Iran cannot concentrate on Caucasus region. So they think that they have the chance to, start a plot and, for example, launch attack to Syunik, or, force you to accept their policies. So this is something that also we have to work on it and make them people understand the realities.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. And some Armenians think, wrongly of course, but they think that the Azerbaijanis of Iran are somehow similar or even identical to the Azerbaijanis of Baku. Could you tell us a little bit more about how these political identities have developed, and how similar or different they are in terms of if they have the Iranian solidarity, if they identify, or if there are a little forces working against Tehran inside the province closest to Armenia.
The point is, the Azeris that are living in Iran are totally different, because they haven't been under the propaganda of Baku regime. So you have to distinguish it. And I think some of the biggest traders in Armenia are from Tabriz, that is Azeri. They are from Azeri origin. So if you work with them, if you talk to them, if you exchange with them, you understand that it's really different from the Azeris that live in Republic of Azerbaijan. They have been under propaganda, but they are different. Maybe there are some people that they are under influence of Pan-Turks and so on. But if you see the bigger picture, the Azeris in Iran are not under the influence of this propaganda. They know the realities. They're enjoying working with Armenians, and I know that how much they are active. In our delegation, we have some Azeris. The head of the Association of Armenian-Iranian Friendship is someone from Tabriz, and is anti-Pan-Turks, of course. And I can give you a lot of examples like this. And Armenians must know that there are a lot of ethical groups in Iran, but the most important thing for ethical groups in Iran is the territorial integrity and their nationality. Unlike some countries that they prefer their religion, their ethical affiliation, and so on, and it's nothing that you want to worry about.
I see. You mentioned a little bit about the cultural similarities between Iran and Armenia. What do you think are the barriers that we need to overcome to see what unites us?
The main barrier is that we don't have a lot of interactions and exchange together. We don't know each other. It has been better after 2020 war, but it's not enough right now. We can work on joint projects in the field of cinema, in the field of theater, writing books, launching, for example, joint TV series together, because we have many, for example, I can give you an example. It has been some high figures in, different dynasties in Iran that help Iranians to, fight with Ottomans. Nobody knows I know nobody's, but many people knows nothing about this both in Armenia and Iran. So we can work on these things. We can launch and produce different documentaries about the beauties of Iran and beauties of Armenia, our cultural similarities. I know that Iranian embassy in Yerevan started some things, both in the field of education, educating Farsi, launching food festivals in Syunik region and so on, but it's not enough. I think we can do many other different things that proves to Armenians and Iranians that we have the same origin in culture.
How much do we know about the Zionist infiltration of the now occupied Artsakh? What do we know in terms of do they have military structures, or are they able to potentially launch strikes?
The first point is that Azerbaijan said that we want to liberate, Nagorno-Karabakh. So we suppose that they are going to attack Stepanakert, for example. But what happened in reality? They attacked the part of Artsakh that was so close to Iranian border. So why did it? Because they wanted to give it to Israel. And they did it. This is the first point. The other point, that according to, I think, Economy Ministry of Azerbaijan, there are about 60, it's the official statistic, I don't know whether it's right or not, but they said that there are about 60 entities and corporations that working in Azerbaijan. I think they said that 15 of them are working in Nagorno-Karabakh. So this is the real, statistics. The other point is that we see some satellite image that there is, for example, some, villages, some natural beauties. They destroy it, and after that we see it's a military site. So a small entity, a small territory like Artsakh, it needs a lot of military site. It's so suspicious. And you see that they have built at least 3 military airports in Artsakh. 2 of them are so close to Iranian border, and one of them is in Artsakh in mountain region. So all of these things are the signs that shows that they want to give this part of the region to Israel. They did it, and we know that, and this is the reason that all the time I stress that the Artsakhis must come back to their houses, and they preserve the security of the region. Because if Artsakhis leave the region, the replacement is by Israelis and Takfiris and the elements that they are against Iran and they are against Armenia.
This reminds me of the Juga cemetery, which has been razed to the ground, and now it's a military. It's in Nakhichevan. It's a military site, and there used to be on the two sides of Araks River, there were these churches, small churches, and of course the Nakhichevan now doesn't have the church anymore because Azerbaijan destroyed it. But I visited the other church on the Iranian side, so that's a little bit what they're doing to our heritage. Okay, well, thank you so much, Ehsan, for this insightful conversation, and we hope to see you in Yerevan again.
It was a pleasure for me. I feel home here. It's real. It's from my heart. Every time I'm come here, I think that I am in home, because we have a lot of similarities. People are so similar together, and the sense of hospitality in Yerevan is so high, and I love it. And I hope that we can continue this kind of interaction, and I hope that your viewers increase, and so you can, broadcast your productions for a vast majority of people, so everybody see it and increase their knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was our conversation with Caucasus expert from Tehran, Ehsan Movahedian. Stay tuned.